Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the podcast. This is Two Catholic Dudes, and my name is Ryan Klaus.
My name is Danny Cleary.
As always, we are not priests, we're not theologians, we're just two Catholic dudes, and we're talking about our faith.
And we are very excited this evening because we have our first female guest. We have Miss Cristina Ballestero with us.
Yes, hello.
What's going on? We're two Catholic dudes and a
Catholic, what do we decide? Catholic gal.
And a gal.
Yes.
Two Catholic dudes and a Catholic gal.
That
tonight.
works.
So thanks for joining us. Yeah, it's
No
a pleasure to
problem.
have a female on after 27 episodes, I think.
Dang,
Yeah.
finally.
Yeah.
I know.
I'm excited to represent. I'm excited
Right?
to be here.
No pressure, though. No pressure.
Yeah, seriously.
So today is February, like
Today
today
is
is
February 3rd.
today's the third, but
February
like
we're filming
in
this.
podcast land when you guys are listening, it's February like 9th.
Yeah.
Sure.
Uh-huh.
So what holiday comes up real soon here?
We just missed Groundhog Day.
Oh, we should have done
And
the Groundhog Day
The
episode.
most important
Oh,
thing,
you're
this
missing out.
has nothing to do with the podcast topic at all, but people need to hear this. February 2nd was also the 95th anniversary of Balto's run in Alaska.
Wow.
Wow.
The real Balto.
Sure.
So-
Well, we didn't touch on Balto on our movie episode.
Well, I know, I forgot, but Balto's my hero. I really like that movie.
have you seen the
Okay.
movie Balto?
I have
Christina?
not.
Me neither. But
Am I off the show or?
No, I'll pray for you, and you should watch it. It's on
Well,
Netflix.
if that's what makes you pray for me,
Yeah.
I'll take it.
It's on Netflix. He saved a bunch of kids. He's half wolf, half husky.
Dang.
All right, coming
Watching
soon.
that tonight,
Yeah.
definitely.
Coming soon, the theology
Of
and
Balto.
Christian Catholic values of Balto, the movie.
So yeah.
Great, wonderful. Okay, so
Anyway,
anniversary of Balto.
Valentine's Day
Oh,
was the
that's
answer
what
to
you're
your
getting at.
question.
Sure,
That's what's coming up.
Valentine's Day.
Is Valentine's Day.
So let's talk about
But
it.
we're gonna tackle dating.
Why don't
Dun,
we
dun, dun.
introduce our
Just
guests
kidding.
and tell us about yourself a little bit first, so like our guests know you a little
Sure.
bit.
Okay.
So-
My name is Cristina Ballestero. I live in Southern California. I'm 20.
Wait, what'd you say the other day? Because it's
Just kidding.
Christina without an H. How'd you
Yes,
say it?
Christ in my heart, not in my name. Christina.
Whoa.
Nice.
Okay.
I know. Clever.
So you're 20. What?
I'm 20.
Cool.
Perfect. I'm also that age.
I'm not.
I'm 28. I'm 28.
Cool. 28's the new 22.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
So
I'll
okay,
be 28 on
but
Thursday.
you're a musician too, right? That's how we kind of
Yes,
connected.
I'm a musician. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter. I'm an actress. So I do a lot of worship music, and then I also release quote unquote secular music.
But your whole thing is like you want to, even though you're doing straight secular music, is to like have Christian
Yeah.
Catholic values
Right,
behind
I wanna
everything that you do and you
Truth,
stand for, right?
beauty, and goodness
Yeah.
in the whole world.
I think that's
And,
amazing.
Yeah, bringing those values everywhere, secularizing it, if you will.
And Christina's really, really talented. And
you.
small world, her home parish was San Antonio, or is San Antonio Parish, my new parish.
Technically, but
that
I
I'm
don't sing there unless you call me.
On Saturday is going to be your first time singing at a mass in a long, long
In a
time.
while,
She's
yeah,
joining
yeah.
me. So
I sing
Well-
at St. Bonaventure in Huntington Beach.
in Huntington Beach.
Yeah, so I do the 10:30 mass and then the 5 p.m. mass, and then
Well, yeah, I will say you did Psalm of the Week with Ryan a couple weeks ago, and
did.
I thought it was spectacular.
Thank
I
you
was
so
so good.
much.
I usually
Thank
skip
you.
Psalm of the Week. I'm just like
Oh,
same old thing.
dang
I don't
it.
need to hear this, but I was like, whoa, this
Wow.
is so good.
Thanks,
So
bro.
I was.
I don't skip Psalm of the Week,
I-
Ryan.
Thanks, Christina.
I've been hearing Psalm of the Week
I get
since
it. It's
before
cool.
this podcast even
Sure,
started.
sure.
Man, I don't skip Tuesday thoughts, bro.
You have to edit them
Dang.
for me. So
Okay.
Okay, so we're talking about dating, you guys. Maybe you need to bring a woman on more so that they can keep
we
you on
actually
Keep us on
track.
track.
get to the topic.
I just derailed the train the entire podcast, so thanks for keeping us honest.
No, you're good. You're good.
So go to Huntington Beach at St. Bonaventure.
And I'll be
Check her
singing
out.
there.
Or
Check me out online if you want to make sure that I am up to your standards.
That's
first.
right. That's right. Valentine's Day. What's up with Valentine's Day, guys? How you want to talk about Valentine's Day first before we get into dating?
This is going to actually be the 9th year in a row I've been on retreat for Valentine's Day. My confirmation retreat always lands on Valentine's
Wow.
Day. So
What's
I
the
actually,
Lord saying to you there?
I like it actually
Right.
because it's like if it's a day of love, even though, it's kind of the hallmarky love.
Well, Hallmark made it like, romantic love.
Yeah, but
it's
like
not just about.
Yeah,
that.
I'm spending a whole weekend trying to show Christ's love to these young people. So I figure that's the most fitting way to spend Valentine's Day.
100%.
So I've always, I think it's fine.
That's a great way to spend Valentine's Day.
The teenagers don't like it, but sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus should be your Valentine anyway at 16. You don't need a Valentine when you're 16.
Yeah. But how did we get as a culture to Valentine's Day for what it is now? It's just like it started from one thing and now it's just like it's all about, the heart candies and the flowers and the chocolates and the whole 9 yards. I don't know. Because
I don't know. When you're a kid, Valentine's Day is like everyone, well, at least for me, you put a bag on your desk.
Those little heart things. That taste like chalk, right?
Well, it's originally from St. Valentine.
Right. He lived in 280 or something. And I read a little bit about him last week when we were going to do this, but like
that's good. I didn't know we were going to talk about him.
Let's get our fact checker.
Bill,
fact checker.
Thank you. We'll be letting you know.
We'll get back to that.
I'm pretty sure. This is totally wrong, probably. He lived in like 200 something, and wherever he lived, they were not letting people marry. They just wanted to send boys off to war, and they thought they would make them soft if they're married. And so his whole mission and goal was to marry people in the
Promote
Catholic.
the sacrament.
Yeah, I heard he
marriage,
would secretly marry people. That was like his whole thing.
Nice,
which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's such a. That's what a great cause, and now it's this hallmarky.
Yeah, now it's all about how much money you can spend on someone to be your Valentine.
Sure. So. Well, I mean, marriage in the family is like the image of the Trinity. It's the image of God. So it makes sense that Saint Valentine, who is the one who is like the whole reason Valentine's Day came about, would be the one who heads that, because that's what we're here for.
That's
to
right.
experience and to learn about the love of God.
That's right.
So, and part of that process is dating,
yeah.
right?
Pull us back
I was
on
trying to
track.
bring us back.
Yes,
okay,
thank
did it
goodness.
work? Okay.
Yes, we're there until.
So dating.
Let's talk about it. So Catholic dating. It's interesting because we talked again, like it's not popular to be Catholic right now. It's moving further and further away from that.
Right.
Long gone are the days
but it's
where
still cool.
It's still cool.
It's almost cooler because it's so exclusive. Just kidding.
Well,
it's not exclusive. Everyone's invited if you're listening.
Yeah, but we on that note of Bishop Barron did a homily that I was at an event, a youth event one time, and he gave a homily about how it's counterculture to follow Jesus nowadays, and like everyone was trying to be so like edgy and counterculture with whatever you're doing, and now it's like following Christ and living that kind of a moral lifestyle. That's the counterculture thing to do right now. So
yeah, and I think that is really difficult when it comes to dating.
Especially with hookup culture and how things are moving in that direction with things that are on television, like the romanticizing of dating and what dating is nowadays is really it's turned far away from where we want it to be, unfortunately. I think
it's normalized just everything sexual in this culture. We just watched the Super Bowl last night, and the halftime show was just all, there's a lot of different sides that people are taking, but I thought it was overly sexualized, and it was supposed to be about empowering women, but I'm like, well, why are they up on a pole, and why are they like spreading their legs and stuff like that?
I didn't even watch it. I saw a picture, and then I was like, I don't need to watch that.
Yeah,
no thanks.
Exactly. And what's that? What are they teaching little girls who are about what it means to be a woman? That's
Sure. Maybe we can call her up and talk to her about that.
Sure.
Nice.
I didn't watch any of the Super Bowl or I watched the halftime show this morning on YouTube because I figured I shouldn't watch Super Bowl because my dad was like, "Can you name any players on either team?" And I couldn't do it.
Joe Montana. Nope.
I said Steve Young. My dad's like, no. So
also no.
But yeah, I think that I watched the performance too, and I think there was a lot of things that were way too much. I think there was a lot of great things that talent that was displayed in the show.
Oh, 100%.
There was also a lot of stuff where it's like, maybe a little easy does it there with that kind of stuff. So there's been everyone in there. And their mother has an opinion on Instagram, as we're all on Instagram, and Catholic Instagram exploded today with everything that had to do with that. But anyway, so back to the topic of dating. When you're dating, is dating difficult as a young Catholic? Would you say yes or no? Is it difficult to date?
You're asking me?
I'm asking you.
It's definitely 100%.
100%. If you really want to find somebody Catholic, like, again, because it's counterculture right now, and people are, we've been talking about this in a lot of episodes, people are leaving the church in droves. Like, then where are you finding these young Catholic singles? You know?
Right. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Like, what's difficult about it for you? Like, are you guys dating anybody right now?
I'm seeing someone.
Okay.
And and it's going pretty good. And she's also Catholic. So
when you have been in the situation of it's difficult, or I don't know how to do this or whatever, what are your questions?
Man, I'm not great at this because I've just ventured back into it because I was in a very long-term relationship that ended last year. So I'm like, dating not just as a Catholic, but as dating as a whole is like, it's like a whole, I feel like I'm blind walking into it. But the biggest thing I look for is, I feel like you have to have a solid friendship with the person before you can venture into any kind of a romantic connection or relationship with them. It's because to connect with someone as a friend, you need to respect them, right? You respect someone as a friend, and I think that my dad always threw into me that you have to, if you're going to find someone to date or be friends with, you need to respect them always and treat them with dignity.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing he always pushed for us, even from the time I was a young kid all the way till now. So that's just, it's hard to find like-minded people that feel that way, I think sometimes.
Yeah, but I think that can be hard because you don't always have the opportunity to be friends with somebody first. But at the same time, what you're saying is exactly true, and that's important to think about when you do date somebody. So understanding that dating is the place where you're getting to know somebody.
Right.
So like, I don't know how it is for guys, but for women, not, sort of fantasizing about the romantic part of the relationship.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? John Paul II, he says, like, let every man look first upon a woman as a sister, then as a possible bride. Same for girls. Let every woman look first upon a man as a brother, then a possible spouse,
Yeah.
So that then you can really see clearly and like sober-mindedly, because I think a lot of problems come in dating when we don't look sober-mindedly, whether it's the question of, should I date a non-Catholic? Should I date this specific Catholic?
Right.
It's like, if I'm looking through the lens of like, hard eyes, anything can make sense.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Put on your rose-colored glasses.
But if I'm sure,
right?
But if I'm looking at them and I'm honestly asking myself, like, does this person align with my life as well? Do they respect my values? Do they honor my values? Do they help me in my mission that God has given me? Do they compliment me? You know what I mean? Like, are we compatible? That's something that is, I think, overlooked a lot. We just think like, oh, they're Catholic, it's fine, it'll work out, it'll be good.
Tell you what, there's a lot of horrible Catholics out there in the world,
But I can't, and I don't mean, I'm sorry to cut you off, but the point you just made about someone that supports, not only respects you and your standards, but supportive of what you feel your calling from God is.
Absolutely.
And that is a huge reason why my last relationship ended, was because I didn't think that we were on the same, we had two different views on our missions from God.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That happens. That's all good.
Yeah.
But that's a huge point that I think that people don't think about when they're going into a dating situation is this person going to support me in what I feel God is calling me to do, not just what they might be, or the relationship might be calling them to do.
Yeah. Like I'm a worship leader. So like maybe a worship leader would be good for me to date, but maybe not. It's like, maybe I'm complimentary to some other type of person, but like in like you're saying in your situation, like it wasn't a place where it was like we aligned. Like you can align with, I could date maybe a worship leader and it would just go horribly because both of us are too much the same or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like you just have to pray through it, and you have to see, does this make sense?
Right.
You know what I mean? Sober-mindedly, does this make sense?
And understanding that relationships evolve, and like you started your relationship very young. You guys were 18 and 19 or something, right?
18 and 20.
18 and 20, and like you don't even know who you are at that point. You think you know, but then you grow and you completely change it to a new person by the time you're 24, 25 years old.
Sure.
And if you guys were together that whole time, you have to continue to evaluate, you know, where are we together? Where are we individually? Do we still align? Maybe you aligned perfectly at that age, but you grew, and you need to continue to pray on it, continue to pray on the relationship, on your relationship with God, on your relationship together, and see if you guys still align at that point. And I think that's where a lot of couples get into trouble when they start dating so young, or get married like at 19 or 20 or something like that, because why a lot of young couples get divorced is because they're different people by that point, you know, 10 years later or something.
Sure. Yeah, and it's so, you know, it's so situational depending on each person, because some people, you know, some people find the love of their life at 20 years old, and it's like, you know, it's the most amazing thing.
My best friend from high school and college, I just went when I visited out in Ventura County. I saw you. We podcasted, but I went over. I had dinner with him, his family, and his little girls. He has 3 little girls. We're the same age. He got married like right out of high school, and they're like happier now than ever. 3 beautiful little girls. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I love spending time with them. But yeah, situational. It could be different for everyone. But I think always continuing to pray on your relationship together, and continue your individual relationships with God, and that's the key right there.
That's crazy that you just said that, because that's what I was about to say. Because in my last relationship that I was in, I felt as my relationship with God grew more intimately, my romantic relationship kind of started to dim away, because I was chasing God in a very different direction than the relationship she wanted it to go. And I was like, God is pulling me here, and I can't ignore it.
Yeah.
And that
which
it was
praise God,
you know?
that you figured that out before you got married. You know what I mean?
And you know, and I'm not trying to speak ill will of anyone, because
absolutely.
for her too, I want her to find someone that is pursuing what God's calling her to do as well.
Absolutely, 100%.
But it was just, you know, I was super thankful of that as well. That I'm like, I felt such a strong pull in another direction. Yeah. You know, it was, you know, it doesn't mean it didn't suck. Yeah. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, 100%.
I'm thankful for it now, looking back.
And the cool thing is, like, if you're not meant for her, she's not meant for you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And like, I've had a relationship in the past where I was dating somebody and they were Catholic, and I wasn't really going after my mission that God had given me. And I wasn't even really sure about it, because I had felt like God had pulled me in all these different directions. And I mean, now, like, I do worship and secular music. Like, I know maybe like 2 people who kind of do that. You know what I mean? So it's like figuring out what God's plan for you is, what his mission is that he specifically put on your life, that he's anointed you with, and then passionately pursuing that, and seeing like who is going to be my 2, who's going to be my one flesh, who makes sense there, you know? So yeah.
So then the topic of we kind of touched on it is, when we get it a lot, is, do I date a non-Catholic? I get it from all my high school students all the time, or my young college students, is they go, should I date somebody that isn't a Catholic? And I always encourage them. I mean, you know, if marriage is a sacrament, and dating someone is in the hopes of pursuing marriage, you're seeing if this is going to be someone that's going to be your spouse, then why? And you can't share in this huge part of your life that is your faith. That might be a struggle. It may be easy now. Yeah. But down the line, when if you're thinking long term, if this is someone I want to marry, are you going to get married in the church? Do you want to raise your kids in the faith? Like, all of that needs to be thought
control,
about.
All these different
all of that
things.
stuff needs to get thought about.
I don't want to have any more kids. Oh, well, okay, well, I can't take birth control. Sorry, it's against my faith.
Right.
We'd have to do natural family planning, which is still very, very, very effective. But maybe they would not be okay with that because it's not a pill or something. Who knows, you know?
And when the relationship's great at the beginning stages, you're like, again, you put on those rose-colored glasses and everything's fine.
Yeah.
Right? You're just so infatuated by one another that you're blinded by the things that you might disagree on. But then when things get rough, after you get married, when you have kids, you're like, oh, these kids might make our lives easier. Sorry to say, it's not going to happen. It's going to make things worse. But what do you rely on when things get bad if you don't have God to stand upon, right? So not to say that it couldn't work because, like, look, one of my great songwriting heroes in the Catholic Church, Sarah Hart, she's married to a non-Catholic and they have a beautiful, loving relationship. They have 2 kids and they make it work, right? So it's you can make it work, but is it harder? Absolutely, 100%. So, but I said before, like, there's a lot of horrible Catholics in the world, so, like, I'd much rather date a good person than a terrible Catholic.
Right. It's like, so I would say if somebody asked me that, like, can I date a non-Catholic, I would say you can, you know that there's going to be problems, know that you're going to have to be extremely strong, and I hope that you have, you know, Catholic brothers or sisters around you that you can talk to about the process and how to navigate a holy, chaste relationship with somebody who is not of the faith.
Right.
You know, so, because, like, sometimes people will ask me out and they're not Catholic. Depending on the person, I'll say yes or no. But you always have to have that conversation. Hey, you know, for me, I don't believe in sexual intimacy outside of marriage.
Right.
End of story. If you're okay with that and this is working, we can get to know each other a little bit more.
Right.
But for me, it's so difficult because I just think about, at the end of the day, every time I've ever done that, I'm always just like, man, I feel like they don't know a part of me just because of, you know, how intimate I've been with Jesus and how much the church means to me. Like, it feels like he could never see a part of my heart. A huge part of my heart, and that's you can only go so deep in a level of intimacy with that person.
I could not agree more with everything you just said. And on that I went to this summer. I went to 2 different weddings back to back, like within the same. I was invited to 2 different weddings. One of them was a full-fledged, like the most Catholic wedding I've ever been to. One of them was just at a golf course or something.
Golf course weddings, classic.
And just even just sitting in attendance, the feeling that, and probably because I am Catholic and I wouldn't be able to get married outside of the church and anything like that. But the Catholic wedding, that even I could feel the love of them, the love of God, just so in powerful form in that wedding. As comparison, the other one was beautiful and it was great.
Sure.
But I remember sitting there and I was like,
surface level, right?
I remember sitting there feeling like I was talking to my younger brother because my younger brother just got engaged. But. Breaks my heart.
It's okay, bud.
That's fine. But my younger brother just got engaged and we were talking about it. Yeah.
Okay.
We were talking about it and he said, it just felt like something was missing from this other wedding. And we were talking about what was missing. We were trying to figure it out. We're like, oh, God was missing.
I mean, look, I did a wedding just on Saturday. I played music at a wedding at our parish, and for whatever reason, the couple, so it was at a Catholic church, but the couple just wanted the liturgy of the word only. I'm like, why?
You're missing the best
part.
So
people often at funerals or weddings, they're like, we don't want to offend our guests, or we don't want them to be uncomfortable.
Just tell them to go to the reception then.
That's crazy. So,
that's sad.
But I was like, it was like a drive-through wedding, honestly. Even though it was at a Catholic church, I was like, what's the point? What's the point? Why are we doing this? You know? And so, yeah, it's better that they did it in the church than at the golf course. But like, where's Jesus? Jesus wasn't there.
But if we believe,
he was there. He just wasn't there in the sacrament.
Yeah, but it was right. I just think the joy of the sacrament of marriage is that it's it's that uniting of man, woman, and God. And if you're gonna be like, oh well, we're not gonna do the whole Eucharist part of like what? That's Jesus right there, right there, live and living color. He's there, and you're gonna that part. But I don't want to.
It might offend Aunt Sal.
I would be like, hey, if you're offended by my love for Christ in the Eucharist, I'll see you at the reception. But I don't know. But everyone, I guess, it's situational for other people.
Yeah.
So dating, as far as dating non-Catholics, it's tough, and it needs to be navigated in a certain way and prayed through and discerned. And it's not that it's not allowed. or anything like that. But
you can date a
and sometimes like you were saying, there's a
Buddhist.
lot of great marriages, and you know, it's just like, what is God's call? You know, and that could be, don't date this Catholic person, date that Catholic person. Don't, marry this. Maybe it is marry this non-Catholic. But I definitely, if I got to choose, if God was like, Christina, here are two people,
right?
I would choose to marry, the Catholic, unless he said, you can marry the non-Catholic and then he'll become Catholic. Then I'll be like, okay, if that means that we can bring him into the faith.
Sure.
But there's a problem with
dating
missionary dating
exactly.
as well,
Yeah, okay,
which leads me to that.
That was what I was just gonna bring up.
So you cannot date somebody with the thought that they're gonna convert. You have to know that you could go your entire life
and they may not,
praying for them with everything, praying every single day, and maybe they don't, convert.
Right.
So
exactly. That needs to be their decision to do so. That needs to be
that goes with dating,
God touching their heart.
Yeah.
That goes with dating in anything, not just dating, but like with Catholic values, but anything. So it's like, oh, I love this person with all my heart, but like I hate that they never do the dishes. But like maybe once we get married, I'll change him. It's like you're not going to change him, or you're not going to change her.
Well, to go back to something that I think is very important when it comes to either dating a non-Catholic or just dating in general, is being upfront about where you stand on a lot of things, your values, your morals, where you stand. You need to be upfront about that from the beginning.
I think that's huge. And I was commenting before, like being upfront. What happened? When did we stop like even just asking people out on a date, and saying like, hey, I think you're pretty cool. Would you like to go on a date with me? But like, we can't use that. That's like a 4-letter word now. It's like, if I say the word date, it's like he's too into me or she's way too into me. So it's like, hold on, bro. Like, settle down. Sure. So it's more like, hey, can we just go hang? And then like see what happens.
Then you're in this limbo of I don't know what this was.
Then you don't know. Nobody knows because you weren't clear about it. So was that a date? I don't know.
So how do you approach it?
You want to hang?
Is that what you say? That's your line?
I'm 36 years old and single, you guys. So like, don't ask me.
Okay, well, as a female, I would say it depends on the relationship. So it's like, do you know them? Do you not know them? Are you meeting them like through a friend?
Right.
Is it like, is it your friend, or is it somebody that you were like meeting on Instagram, or like what is it? So it's different per situation, right? There's like, for me, like I had a friend that I had a crush on, and the friendship developed, and then my crush developed, and I told him, I had to let him know, like, hey, I'm kind of into you. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it was the most nerve-wracking thing of my entire life. It didn't work out, but at least I know.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so, so especially ladies, if you're listening, I think sometimes guys can get intimidated if they are into a girl, that they'll get too scared, or they won't know what to say, or they think they'll freak out if they ask them on a date or whatever. And that's normal, Right. So what I usually try to do, if you're listening, girls, I'll give little like hints, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you look really handsome, and you like just little extra attention to kind of boost their confidence, type of a thing. You know what I mean? And then sometimes I'll be very, very like frank, you know what I mean? Like I said to somebody,
take me to dinner.
I was like, hey, I was talking to somebody, we were talking for like maybe a week or something like that, and on social media, and I was like thinking, like, I think he knows like that I want him to ask me out, but I don't know, I'm not sure. So I dropped little hints, and then I was like, so what are your plans today? Like, about a week later, he told me his plans, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, oh, any plans to ask me out?
Wow, there you go.
So I said it because I was like,
right
I knew, because I was like, I didn't know what he was thinking, and for me, also, like, I like to get to know somebody in person.
Sure.
So for me, I value intentionality, and I value communication, And, you know, I mean, I don't know what, maybe, you know, he was really busy or his life or whatever. But I definitely did my part, and that was it. That's as much as.
I want to hear. What his response actually was to that? Like, I was looking down, but we're gonna take a quick break, and we're gonna hear the rest of it. All right.
Okay.
All right, we're back. Thanks for waiting so long. We want to hear the end. Like, what was his response to like? Well, are you gonna ask me on a date?
So he was actually gonna be busy for the whole next week. So it ended up actually being that was the case.
Was he like washing his hair? Which, by the way, I'm finding out is like a legit excuse now.
That's why it's important, especially, and that could like for women, and for guys, you know, to be intentional and to communicate, you know, I wish that it would have been like, hey, you know, I know we're talking on here, but I would like to take you out sometime. I don't really have time in the next week or so. But just wanted to throw that out there. If you wanted to see if you'd be interested in that.
So it was still vague?
No. I think that's something that he could have done.
Right. But
do you know what I mean? To let somebody know.
Don't ghost somebody.
Right. So the way he it was kind of like, oh, I'm busy. But then you're like, well, does that mean that it's still going to be a possibility next week? You know, because he was vague about it. Yeah, because
then you're wondering and whatever, and then who knows what if, you know, they go out with somebody else or whatever, which is fine. But yeah, but that's why it's important for women, especially, you know, if you don't know where you stand, ask. Mm-hmm. You know, we're always in these like, oh, we're in a thing, or like we're kind of talking, or we're seeing each other. No, are we dating? Mm-hmm. Are we friends? Whenever somebody asks me to hang out and I can kind of feel a vibe, I'm like, hey, like they'll be like, hey, do you want to grab dinner, or you want to do this or whatever?
Let's go back to like, I'll give you my Letterman jacket, or I'll give you my class pin. Like, that was very clear.
Yeah, but if somebody if somebody asks out a girl, then it's like, if somebody ever asks me out, I'm like, okay, is this like a date, or are we just hanging out as friends? You know, so it's like, unfortunately,
you just ask them straight up.
I have to because
rad.
I've been in too many situations where I'm like, oh, it's just friends, like, or it's like, oh, I don't want to assume anything, and so it's like, who cares if they think you're weird or they think whatever? You don't want that friend anyways. You know what I mean?
Like, I got time for that.
I will say though, you know, because we were talking earlier about how does it, like, when you like a girl, or like from a guy's perspective, when you like a girl and you don't know, you've been talking to them and you don't know what the situation is, it's like the most terrifying situation in the world, because you're just like, I'm gonna mess it up. If I'm gonna say too much and then they're gonna run, and
I'll get friend zoned.
It's the worst. Or you're gonna not say what you needed to say, and then they're gonna assume, well, then they're not interested. Yeah, you know, it's like.
But if you get friend zoned, that's okay. Do you know why? Because you're one step closer to who you're supposed to be with. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
That's a good point.
It's like, you should like never. That's what I want to say to anybody listening. Never be like experience your disappointment. Sure. You know, the little grief, the little loss. Oh, the what ifs, whatever. But it's like, if they don't want to be with you, you don't want to be with somebody that doesn't see you like that. That doesn't want to be with you in that way. You want to be with somebody that loves you and that, you know, sees you like that and whatever. And like we were saying, sometimes things can develop or whatever. But knowing that, like, it's okay, like, you know, and maybe you say it, maybe you think about, or you talk to your buddies like, hey, how should I say this or whatever. But for me as a woman, like, if a guy were to ask me out, a good way would be like, hey, so I wanted to know if you would be interested in grabbing coffee with me, or something simple, you know? Yes. And then maybe saying, if they don't ask if it's a date or whatever, then you can say something like, I'd like it to be a date. Like, are you comfortable with that? Or, you know, like saying things that like, are you comfortable with this? Is this something that you would be interested in? You know what I mean? So it's not this like, hey, do you want to go on a date? And then you're like, maybe, I don't know. And then, you know what I mean?
You taking notes out there, hopefully.
But
this is good advice.
Yeah, this is great advice. But I
forgot my notepad.
But if it's,
I'll tell you again.
Cool.
If it's seeing it as like that, I think the point of saying like, hey, I'm interested in taking you on a date. Would you, if you're interested in that, I would love to take you for a cup of coffee.
How about this? Yes, exactly. Saying, would you be willing to explore dating with me? If they're your friend, would you be willing to explore dating?
Yeah.
You know, a text, a conversation, whatever. If you know what I mean, like it.
Yeah, if you communicate clearly, then you can know. Because a lot of people, I think, are afraid of if it's a friend situation. Is what if it goes wrong?
Yeah.
And I lose this friend,
or it's just weird from now on.
Because that happens, you know.
Yeah.
And it sucks when it does. So I think that. But if you are open with it and you're intentional, like we were talking about, and you say like, hey, I'm interested in maybe seeing if there's a potential here for a dating situation. Let's have a cup of coffee and talk it over.
I think people are usually pretty good at moving past awkward situations like that these days. So if you do ask that question, they go, no, like I see you as a friend. Usually both parties are pretty good at just like, pretending that thing never happened and moving on with their lives.
Great.
Well, and if anything, to me, it's like it's a compliment. Number one, and number two, wow, that guy's a man. You know what I mean?
There you go.
There it is.
He's brave. It just to me it sucks that it's like a sign of bravery. Like that I even think that way. It's a sign of bravery. Like,
and that's just what people used to do.
Like dating and that's another thing too about dating nowadays. It's so serious. It's so like, oh my gosh, we go out on 1 date or 2 dates and it's like everybody's acting or talking like everything's so official and like the wedding's in a week or something like that. That's what the pressure feels like.
Another table, right? Another chair at Thanksgiving since you went on 1 date with this.
So
like,
one of the best words of advice that I ever got from somebody was when you are dating somebody or if you're interested in somebody and you start dating them, whatever, keep it to a minimum of like 2 to 3 people that you really trust. And talk to them about it. And then until things, move a little forward, then you can add a little more people to the conversation. Because that way it doesn't mess with your discernment. You don't have all these other opinions, but you have the opinions of people you trust. You have people who can encourage you because everybody has insecurities in the dating area, male or female. You know what I mean? Yep. So the last thing you need is 1,000 voices in your head.
If I told someone that I went on a few dates with a girl and my mom got wind,
Game over.
She'd be like, my son's finally getting married, 36 years old. Yeah. Like, when are the grandkids coming?
How cute is your mom?
She's adorable.
And you gotta love her for that.
You gotta love her. But thank goodness I have a brother who got married and he has a second kid. Actually, they're due any day. So like prayers that by the time this podcast comes out, they'll have baby number 2. So Alicia praying for you, Jim praying for you guys. But yeah, thankfully they relieved some stress.
Took some pressure off.
Some pressure off of my side. But yeah, it's again, I think coming at it very intentional, and that's great with keeping it to a minimum of how many people know, because it will affect your discernment process and be able to pray on it without all this cloudy judgment from around you, so going back to being intentional,
so like, what is a good first date? If you're gonna ask somebody on a date, what would be a good first date?
Full date at Disneyland.
Coffee, ice cream.
Coffee and ice cream.
I've been doing it wrong the whole time.
Something very simple. Something very simple, not intimidating, so that if it goes good or bad, let's say it goes bad, it's like, oh, it's not a lot of pressure on it ending or whatever. Yeah. If it goes good, cool, you have something to be excited for, right? To spend more time with this person, and that goes for both parties. It's like you want them. There is an element of desire and wanting to spend more time, and you don't want to get rid of that or exhaust that, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that it's do something simple where you can talk a lot, because I think that like, when people go, let's go see a movie.
Classic
That's
movie
the worst
decision.
decision.
Just kind of get to know. You have to get to know them.
Like, how are you gonna? All you're doing is sitting
movie,
next to them. Like,
That's funny.
I was never that like, let's go to a movie. That would never work. How can you get to know this person at all? You can't even see them.
I like doing something active, but like bowling is kind of overdone. Like, go to the driving range or something like that. Hit some balls with somebody. Do something active, but like.
I would say that's too long for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for
the first
literally
date. That's like
coffee.
maybe that's like a third date.
Maybe second date. I would
go
say
coffee, ice cream, driving.
I would say
you guys
coffee.
Heard it. You taking notes?
I'd say coffee or boba, something like that, and then moving to something. Once you guys have established, okay, I'm kind of interested.
Yeah.
Then doing something a little bit more
active.
Yeah.
It takes more time.
And things like a coffee or an ice cream, you're not like waiting for food or anything like that. So say it's going horribly or it's super awkward, it can just be like, well, we tried, and I'll catch you on the on the flip side.
But letting it build, letting it grow, kind of that idea of friends first. Let's say you're not their friend first. You have to get to know them. So spending little amounts of time when you meet a friend, it's very different. It's like you don't tell them all of your deepest, darkest secrets if they're just your friend, which is funny because in dating relationships, that happens all the time. You're like, oh my gosh, I like this person, and then you tell them everything, and then you're super attached to this person. You have no idea who they are actually, but you know what you've painted in your head. So, which can be dangerous as well.
Sense of intimacy that you just
false sense of intimacy, right? And you're bonded to this person because you've shared these things.
Speaking of intimacy, and we're talking about being intentional with everything, and you alluded to it earlier about being clear with where you stand as a Catholic and what you believe in and how far you want to go when it comes to being intimate and romantically. I think it's very important that we're clear with the person. So say we did find that person, we made it to date 3 or date 2, or when do you tell them how, where your line is? Because even if you find another Catholic, you guys might not agree on. Say you're like, we're both waiting. We're both waiting for marriage, but like, okay, well, where's the line? Now we don't have to be like graphic or anything, but like, what, like how do you tackle that?
Like I said earlier, as far as me in relationships, I am not okay with any sexual intimacy outside of marriage. So if you're comfortable with that, we can continue to date and see each other. This is assuming I would want to continue. You know?
And you would let them know like date 1?
And you can let me know if you're comfortable with that. It depends on the person. If I don't know them, I will tell them before.
I'll tell them, go in for the kiss?
No, I will tell them before we go on a date.
Oh, yeah.
Before we go on a date.
Good.
I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste your time or my time. I've had people actually, so I was on, we talked off mic, but I was on a dating app. I was on Catholic Match before, but I was on Hinge, and I literally had to message, like, if somebody liked me, because I went out with this guy one time, and I was like, and he said Catholic conservative on his profile. I went out with him. He was not those things. So I've never gone out with him again.
So something on the internet was not true.
Right. Well,
weird.
So now, like, so then later, so I was like, okay, I have to change this. So I was very explicit, like, on my profile, like, I'm not gonna have sex before marriage, whatever. And I've had to message people and say, like, hey, I don't want to waste your time. You know what I mean? Like, and I'd say the same thing. And you just have to be clear when you don't know the person. And the reason why is because you don't want to put yourself in a situation that you're gonna freak out and not know how to say no. You know what I mean? If you're some crazy, super, like, human that can, like, say no to anything when things are romantic or whatever, like,
you go out for a drink, you have a drink,
and it's a safety thing too.
It's a safety thing, especially for
women.
young girls, for women, right? And but you're like enamored by this person, you have a drink, maybe 2, and then, like, you didn't set that boundary, and do you have the willpower to say no at that point? Right? So absolutely.
I would agree with that. Any advice to give to anybody is be straight up with where you stand right from the get-go. Don't leave anything up to, well, who knows, I guess we'll see what happens. Be straight up.
And the worst thing that could happen is they go, that's not where I'm at, and you go, all right, well, it's, and you figured that out right away instead of dragging it on for weeks or months, right?
And as we were saying before, then that person wasn't for you.
They weren't for you.
That's not whom God intended. So you move on.
Exactly.
Right. I got time for that. We talked about online dating a little bit. So, like, I've been doing that for a bit, but it's like I also just don't really pursue it because I'm A, like, really busy, and B, I don't know what's wrong, but, like, I just don't pursue it. But we were talking about, like, Hinge, and there's Bumble, and there's Tinder and stuff, and, like, I think you can find Catholics on there, but A, are they exactly truthful in what they're talking about?
There was a Catholic that I was like, there's no way this person's Catholic, and I X'd him, and then somebody was like, hey, you should talk to this person, and they were, like, actually Catholic. So I was like, you never know. That's why it's important. Like, if I was straight up with that person, then I just didn't. I was just like, no, this person
Right.
isn't.
I
assume in my experience, you know.
I kind of want to talk though about like the phenomenon of this social media dating, like being able to just swipe left or swipe right. I think we all have it as millennials or Gen Zs or whatever, but we have FOMO, right? Fear of missing out.
Sure.
In so many things in life now that we have the world at our fingertips in our phones. But I think with dating even more so. So if you're in the culture of being able to swipe and you're essentially window shopping on these people, you might match with somebody that could be your perfect fit, but you're like, oh, but look at the next girl in line there. Oh, she's cute too. Oh, well, now we matched. Oh, but like, I don't want to go on a date with her.
That's why you have to be so careful.
Right.
So because in my experience, I'm like, I can only like do that whole thing for like a very short period of time, and then I'm like, I feel like I'm like judging these people. It's like everybody is like a child of God and made in His image and likeness, and
you're going, nope.
I know, which is
it
sad.
puts a big X on their face.
But attraction is something that is important for relationships.
Of course.
But you like it's great that you brought that up because that's so important. Like if you're sitting on there just hours and hours, like nope, like yes, whatever it is, like we have to be prudent in doing that. You know what I mean? It's like checking your intentions while you're on there.
Or even if, say, you see someone that, you know,
even on Catholic dating.
any of this.
Yeah, when you say you see the most good-looking person of all time, right? And you swipe yes, and then you're just sitting there. Hopefully, they message you back, and you're just like, you don't even know this person.
I know.
You're like, my future wife has got to just swipe me back.
I remember people's original gripes with the concept of it, and they're like, "That's so degrading. You're just judging people on their looks." I was like, "Well, how did you find your husband? You were at a bar and you saw them across the way, and it's not there wasn't a sign over their head that said they're Catholic and they're all a list of the things that they like. It's like, well, I thought they were good looking, so I went over and I talked with them.
Yeah.
You know, but so on the core of it, it's the same.
There's
but
a level
then
of it,
it can start to escalate very quickly.
I've never been on any of the other apps. I only finally got Hinge because a really good friend of mine that loves Jesus, she's not Catholic, but she highly recommended it. And another friend actually that loves Jesus recommended it as well. But I saw that Cecilia Pappas went on Bumble BFF, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, because being like a Catholic creative person in Orange County, specifically Anaheim Hills, like I have had trouble to find like just girls that are my age that I can go to lunch with. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone has like 9-to-5 jobs, and mine is like entrepreneur, creative type of stuff. So I just need more day-to-day kind of friends type of stuff. So I've gone on Bumble BFF.
Nice.
And it's like, it's funny because you do the same type of a thing where you're like swiping and you're like liking or not liking. But you can read like what their profile's about. Right, so it's just, you just have to check your heart. And they have
one of those for like single moms or not single moms, like stay-at-home moms. They want
there's and not let it get out of hand.
Like finding friends?
Yeah. Just finding friends.
Isn't that crazy?
I've never
what a world we live in, right?
Yeah.
What about, so we talked about like fear of missing out, which I think is a huge thing, why there's so many a lot of people are just okay with being single. But also like all the phenomenons of ghosting and like basically I think that comes down to again not being intentional and being afraid to be upfront, and it's like what happened to being a true gentleman or a true lady, and it's like
communicating
because they're just afraid. They're like it's too hard to let somebody know, hey, this isn't working out or whatever, just like it's not you, it's me. But being a man and saying like, hey, this ain't it.
Well, I can speak to that a little bit just because I was in a relationship for 9 years before, and I think that sometimes you look at it as like you put a lot of time into something and you don't want to admit that maybe it's not working, and that can be a big part of it. At least for me.
Ghosted them?
No.
Oh my gosh! Could you imagine ghosting somebody after 9 years?
No. But like, so there's a limit to that too, or like when maybe you're talking to someone online for a really, really long time and you're like, I've never even seen this person in real life, like do I at least want to meet them once? Or so that I think that there's some level of that you do put in a little bit of time.
If you're dating somebody online, I've dated or I was talking to somebody, and there it is, talking to somebody. But I met them on Catholic Match, and they were so nice, and it was so awesome. And then I met them over FaceTime, and they were just totally different. So when I meet somebody online, I'm like, I don't really even want to talk to you because I will paint a picture as a female, as an artist. Like, I want to get to know you in person. I want to FaceTime, meet up, whatever it is. Like, to hear their voice, to know what they are like, and if you are actually, attracted to them or drawn to them.
Yeah, I had one horrible. I went on one app for 1 week, and it was horrible, and then I got rid of it. And it was or 2 times, but the latest time is I got on Bumble. And this girl messaged me, and like it said Catholic and everything in my profile, and she had messaged me like, hey, so like, since you're religious, can I ask you a couple questions? And I went, oh boy, like here we go. Like, sure. And she just started, and I am unapologetically pro-life, as we should be as Catholics, and she went in on me for being pro-life before I even.
You're like, great.
I'm like,
okay.
I thought you wanted to like. Talk about potentially going for coffee, and it was and I remember after that conversation I just deleted the app. I'm like, forget it, I'm not doing this. It was the craziest thing.
And that's the thing, is like, if you date a non-Catholic, it's not just about the morality part of it. You're not just going to be fighting against the sexual intimacy part,
right?
You're going to be fighting against like the pro-life stuff, the marriage between a man and a woman. Even some Catholics, that's hard for them, know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so it's like it's so important that you really try to date a Catholic.
I liked what you talked about just a moment ago. I didn't get a chance to comment on it, but like when you were talking about actually meeting that person and not just like texting for the longest time, because this goes beyond the scope of dating, but this is a problem that young people have now in general, is that they don't know how to communicate anymore. Because when you just communicate via text or via on social media, they don't even email anymore, but you have the time to craft the perfect message that you want. You type out 3 sentences, you're like, that's not it, backspace, backspace, backspace. Okay, wait, what do I really want to say? And it's the absolute perfect response to that. And then vice versa, and then they take, and so it's like we talked about in social media, when we're posting our selfies and stuff, we go and we Photoshop them,
it's edited,
it's filtered,
but you don't know what they're really like.
You don't know what they're
then
really
you
like.
hang out with them and they crazy.
You know what
I mean?
They took off all their filters, and
you
you're just
thought
seeing
she
that
was nice,
raw,
but she ain't.
But
so there you go. Like you gotta see the real person, and so
because I'm gonna roast my poor young people. I won't say his name or anything.
Roast
but
him, dude.
I had a kid who was he's 16 years old, and he came in youth group, and he says to me and one of my other leaders, he goes, I got a girlfriend. And I'm like, cool, man. And I'm like, where'd you meet her at school? And she goes, oh no, she lives in like Michigan or something. Like, what? He's like, I met her on Snapchat.
You met
guess
on
what?
Snapchat?
You don't have a girlfriend.
You can meet somebody
at all. And he's like, no, I think
catfishing.
He's like, I think we're in love. I'm like, you're absolutely not.
Oh no.
And then like the next week, he's like, hey man, it's over.
Having a really tough time.
I'm like, sorry to hear that, man.
Dang it.
Never started.
But that's where young people are at.
Come on.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, how do I determine my relationship on how long my Snapchat streak is with them? If my Snapchat streak with them is long, strong
it was going strong, but our 251 streak ended, so we broke up. So that's not it.
That's how the young people determine their. I'm like, dude, guys.
Oh my gosh.
You can pursue. There's so many other things for you to worry about right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that knowing a person, actually talking to them, having a human connection is something that is missing from the whole world, not just I think in the dating world, but it's very, very important in the dating world to connect with a person, human to human, and be able to speak with them and be honest with them.
And to get past, like we were talking about before, get past just the surface level physical attraction, but like you were saying, get to know the person before you even like get to that step.
Yeah.
Right?
Which brings us to JP2's Pyramid of Intimacy.
JP2's Pyramid of Intimacy.
I make sure it's right.
Haven't read that because you know what? We're not priests. We're not theologians.
Hey,
we don't know.
But you should be reading this.
We should be. So
Theology of the body.
I know.
Okay, so number 1,
right,
it's friendship. Number 2 getting to know them better, more deeply, more intentionally. Number 3, getting to know their family.
Wait, slow down. I want to hear the first 3 again because they went really quick. They went really quick.
Friendship, getting to know each other.
Okay.
Getting to know family.
Okay. I just want our listeners to be able to recap.
And then he says exclusive relationship, then engagement, then marriage, then sexual intimacy. So that's the pyramid of intimacy from JP2, right?
Different than the pyramid of nutrition that we saw in grade school, which I heard was completely debunked, where they had like remember the bottom one was all.
So yeah, beginning with friendship, even if you're dating, beginning with friendship. And girls, that's really hard. I know. Maybe guys, that's hard for you too.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
Thinking like, I'm getting to know, and I think that takes the pressure off too, is when you're dating somebody being like, I'm getting to know them. Who are they?
Yes.
What do they want in their life? What is their mission? What is God calling them to?
Yes.
You know?
And I think that you said it very early on when we were talking, but it's not needing to let everybody in your life know who you're hanging out with all the time when you're trying to foster a friendship that could potentially grow into this dating relationship. Because I know that and especially people in their 20s and 30s that are hanging out with people, everyone's just going to assume, oh, well, what's going on? Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Is there anything? Is there a spark? And it's, if you were saying, you said it really beautifully before, if there's that added pressure, it takes away from perhaps
and it's hard
the growth
because
in
you're
that.
excited.
Sure,
you know what I mean? Yeah. Or you know somebody that knows them and they say something and you giggle a little bit because you're like,
I'll tell you, step 1 is even hard for me right now because I think of the history of my past is I wasn't exactly aligned with God in my early 20s in my faith, and I was striving for number 7 right off the bat, right?
Mm-hmm. And you let him on this show?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Jeez.
Heathen.
Striving for number 7, but then super upset when I had to settle for number 1 only, getting friend zoned. And I was like, but it's because I wasn't aligned, but I wasn't finding the people that were aligned with that same vision now that I have currently. But I think those past experiences, it weighs in on like, oh, it's tough to find just that friendship because I'm scared that I'm going to just be stuck in that friendship zone again. Look at I'm getting all vulnerable.
Yeah, but guess what? You only need to work with one person. You know what I mean? And that's your wife.
Right.
So anybody listening, it's okay. Like, you're not for everybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like maybe some people struggle with like, oh, well, I have to say no to this person, or and I have to say no to this person, or whatever. Like maybe they have that problem, and it's like, you're not made for everybody. You know, you're made for one person, and unfortunately sometimes it takes longer to find them for whatever reason that you take up with the Lord, but that's okay. Praying for you. Praying for each other.
For you guys.
Yeah, we should.
I mean?
Yeah, and
praying for you, listeners. Seriously though.
What God? We don't know God's intention. We just have to put our faith, our trust. That,
absolutely.
God knows better than God knows our heart and who our heart is for better than anybody. So
Yeah, and I think another thing is, do you have room in your life for a relationship? Mm-hmm. Do you have room? Do you have the finances, especially as a man? To foster a relationship, to build a relationship, to buy somebody else a coffee, to buy somebody else a meal once a week, or whatever it is.
Christina, we live in California, Southern California.
That's what I'm saying.
I can't afford my own coffee.
How big is your wallet?
Yeah, right. No, absolutely.
Small.
But having the extra room, absolutely, in your heart first and foremost, but in your life, are you too busy? I would say too busy, but again, that comes down to what your priorities are. You always have room. What is the quote? I forget who said it, but like. The quote, some line was like, I pray every single day for 1 hour, except for the days that I'm extremely busy. On those days, I pray for 2 hours. So like, you can make it a priority. So if you want to make dating a priority, even if you have a full-time job and you do all these extracurricular things, you can find room for dating that person.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you're in a dating relationship and you're like, I don't really want to date them anymore. Do you guys know how to handle that?
All right, so this is only our second episode where we got to take a second break, but I do want to find out what our answer to this question. This is our second cliffhanger of the episode. All right, we're back. Thanks for waiting again. The question, I believe, was how do you get out? How do you let somebody down? How do you get out of a relationship? Okay. Almost like how do we get out of this podcast? This is going over an hour at this point. Thanks for hanging. If you're still listening, if you broke it up into segments, thanks for continuing with us.
We're making it longer by doing all this thinking.
It's cool. I just derail.
That's what he does.
That's what I do. You've actually done a good job of keeping us on topic.
So here's how you get out, guys. All right. So what you do is, depending on the relationship, you can text them, you can call them, whatever. You can say thank you. Hey, thank you so much. I had such a great time, at our last date, our last hangout. I'm so appreciative of you asking me out. But I wanted to let you know, I feel like God's calling us to a friendship. So I hope that that's something that's okay with you, and I hope that we can still continue in a friendship. What are your thoughts?
Wait, what was the medium here? Was this text message?
Text message or a phone call.
Or a letter? Should you write them a letter?
Don't write them a letter.
Don't write them. Okay. No, don't write them a letter.
Don't write them a letter. Okay.
And what time frame is this?
Okay,
Does this say you went on 1 or 2 dates?
Right.
This is 1, 2, or 3 days.
You're just feeling out, and not guys, an exclusive situation.
It's always better if you are too afraid to call them, text them. It's better to text them than to not tell them anything, than to ghost them.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
And
you could even say that in the text. You could even say, honestly, I was super nervous, to tell you this because whatever. I was super nervous to tell you this because I value you as a friend and I don't want to lose that or whatever. You know what I mean? Be honest. Be real about it.
And please, and for ladies, if you're not interested in a guy anymore, tell them. It's okay to just say, hey, you ain't it.
Hey, I think you're really handsome. Hey, I think you're really beautiful, but I'm not. I don't think that.
Start with a compliment, yeah.
But
but it's just not. This isn't working the way. This isn't where I'm feeling called.
But I don't feel like God, and that's true. It's not a lie. Whether you're not attracted to them, you don't think a certain part of them will align with you. Whatever it is, that's the truth. It's not a lie to say that you don't feel like God is calling you in that direction. You know what I mean? So you don't have to feel bad at all. It's there was one time I told somebody that was my friend, he asked me out and I knew right away. I was like, I don't feel called. I mean, I've dated enough times that I know this, I don't think that this would be something unless God changed it, which I feel like he would do in friendship. But anyhow, I was like, you know what? Honestly, I'm so honored that you asked me out on a date. And it honestly gives me encouragement as a woman. But I don't feel like God's calling us to be anything more than friends. Right. And I hope that this is the only time, I don't know what kind of Holy Spirit possession I was in right at this time in my life, but I was like, I hope that you aren't discouraged by this. And I hope that you know that my no is meaning that you're one step closer to your yes.
Wow.
I
would feel so good. I'd be all right, thank you.
And then you hang up and you're like, oh wait, what just happened?
I don't know. That's only happened once. I don't know. Like I said, the Lord was definitely present.
Whoa.
Probably helped because he was really a good guy, and I just wanted to just take care of his hearts because of how awesome he was. But
that's it. So that's it. That's how to get dumped.
There you go.
That's man.
But easier said than done.
Sure, of course.
But there's something about doing that difficult thing and being a man or being a woman and saying, being upfront and
fighting
letting them know,
through the uncomfortability, right? Because they're worth it.
Exactly. And if you truly love this other person of Christ as a a brother or sister in Christ, you want the best for them, even if it's not going to be in a romantic way. But the best for them is for them to know and for them to be able to move on with their life. Because ghosting, that's the worst. It just leaves this it's this floating uncertainty. Uncertainty. Yeah. And you're like, oh, this haze of maybe
I don't really know, how are they feeling about
what's going
me?
on
Oh
with
my
this?
gosh.
I thought we had some vibes, but maybe next week will be better.
There was one time I was dating somebody and they were really weird one week and I didn't know what was going on. And I texted him and said, hey, do you have time for a phone call tomorrow? And he was just like, oh, I'm going to be really busy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. Like, and he was already not intentional. And I was like, okay, I'm trying to be intentional about having a conversation about certain things that are happening, him being weird, whatever. And then, anyway, we ended up talking like that night and on the phone. And I was like, hey, yeah, like, I don't know what's going on, whatever. And he was like, yeah, I have been kind of weird this week because of this or that reason, whatever. And I'm like, oh, well, I wish you would have just told me, like, hey, you know, if it's okay with you, I just need a couple of days to, like, figure out, you know, what's kind of going on for me mentally right now. Just wanted to let you know that so you don't think that I'm, like, abandoning you or ghosting you or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, cool. You know, like, thank you for letting me know. Like, I'll definitely give you your space. So just, like, communicating wherever you're at so that the other person can know. And then that way, if you communicate and the other person freaks out, you know that that's not somebody that you want to be with.
They're not very good at communicating.
You know what I'm saying? So
I think to wrap, the biggest things when you're pursuing a dating situation is communication, mm-hmm. being intentional, mm-hmm.
Are we wrapping?
I think
we're like an hour 5 right now. We could always do a part 2. I'm up for that.
Okay, sorry. Communication.
So communication.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Being intentional. Mm-hmm. Putting your values and your faith in the forefront of any discussion. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think always looking at a person's heart with dignity and respect when you're looking at a person. Mm-hmm. Even if you're looking at someone and obviously they're beautiful, they're handsome, whatever it may be, you need to look at them as I love what you said, that looking at them as a brother or a sister first. Mm-hmm. I think that is the key to when approaching a situation in dating.
Following the rules of the triangle and not the one with all the carbs on the bottom. What was it? It was carbs. It was carbs and then meat and cheese and vegetables. And at the very top was
we'll just let you finish and then we'll continue the podcast.
I don't know. Do you want to get into chastity and dating and...
Should we do another episode?
Sure. We're gonna have to.
We're gonna have to.
This is kind of long.
Yeah, we're at like 1:10. So let's wrap now. Let's come back and let's get into it further on another episode. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Part 2.
Right. So, all right. Let's do our closing.
Post Valentine's Day, everything's great. Valentine's date went awesome. Now you're really feeling it, and you don't know what to do because your body's saying one thing and your soul is saying another. Ooh. Cliffhanger. What do you do?
Our first cliffhanger episode.
So as always, please make sure you follow us on all of our social media, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
What? Or what?
Or YouTube? YouTube.
That's
YouTube.
Christina, where can we find your stuff?
As Instagram, YouTube, I'm on Spotify.
Just peruse there until you find someone.
Cristina Ballestero, Christ in my heart, not in my name.
Right there.
Cristina Ballestero. You'll probably tag me or something.
Yeah, we'll tag you.
Anyways.
So Instagram.
That's me.
I'll try to put it right there.
It just pops up like 4 times.
Sorry, listeners. We're talking about visual things. But we love you.
That's right. We love you guys too. You guys are just as important.
Yes.
It's a both and situation. You can watch it.
Okay, so what's the closing line you guys do?
Shoot. We forgot both questions.
We forgot both questions.
We got so wrapped up. It's fine. This episode's going to be longer because we can't not have a guest on and not ask the question. So it's going to be, we're going to end it.
I can be quick.
Yeah, it's cool. All right. So as always, our first question that we ask our guest is, what is the weirdest, craziest, most interesting, unique thing that's ever happened to you or at Mass?
Okay, the weirdest thing, I was singing at Mass.
Okay.
Somebody received Jesus in the Eucharist, was walking towards the cup, Jesus in the blood, and like said something to me. And I'm like singing deep in prayer because I'm like really close to Jesus in the blood. So I'm like, oh my gosh, King of Kings right before me. I'm singing whatever. Says something to me. I'm like, literally like was just so shocked. Did not respond. Was like, what? Mm-hmm. It was very bizarre, honestly.
You don't even know what he said?
I don't know. I didn't ask. It was somebody that I've chatted with before. I almost said chatted to. Anyways, chatted with before. And yeah, no. Maybe socially there's something there, but
guys, if you're still taking notes, if he was in fact asking Cristina on a date, that would not have been the good time.
Not have been the time.
Not the time. That was funny.
So check that, mark that one off as a no for things to do.
No.
But glad.
Okay, second question.
What is your favorite board game?
Family Feud. It's kind of a board game, not totally, but it's really fun.
There's a version of a board game.
We'll allow it. Yeah, we've played like a version with
Family Feud's fun.
As long as you allow it.
We'll have a Family Feud game night. I still want to do board games and Bibles and
board games. All right. Anyway, so make sure you give us a follow on all of our social media. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with
part two
sometime in the future. More episodes to come. And
that's
as
it.
always, thanks for listening. Peace.
Love you guys. Thanks.